In this video, we're going to be going over what are the 5 best long-range rifles inside Warzone right now that you should be using. We're going to break down the stats of the new Grav assault rifle and all of the changes that have taken place to existing weapons to let you know which is the best. If you enjoy weapon stat breakdowns and weapon comparisons, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we're trying to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers, and click that link in the description down below and subscribe to our second channel. We do post extra gameplay content over there as well. But first, let's get into the patch notes because that's where all the details are. So first of all, we've got some changes to these rifles right here. So we've got C58, EM2, MG82, which I don't really classify as a long range rifle, and then the stoner. I don't know why they never put the text here for the stoner, but that's a bit weird. So we have the C58, they increase the recoil, EM2, they increase the recoil as well. Now for these two weapons right here, I didn't really feel like they needed any more of a nerf than they already got previously. So I feel like this is a bit unnecessary in my opinion, and it's just going to make these guns even less viable than they were before. Then we've got the MG82, which, like I said, I don't really classify this as a long-range rifle at the moment, so again, it's not really going to be in the mix for long-range rifles even after this change. They just kind of slowed down the handling, made the recoil a little bit worse. That's pretty much it. And then the stoner, a lot of people moved away from some assault rifles and moved over to the stoner because it did output a ton of damage. It had very low recoil as well. And they did nerf it before with recoil, but they just nerfed it again. I'm only take a look into that as well. And then also we got the new addition of the Grav assault rifle, which is what you're seeing on screen just now. So we got this new weapon added in, and after some playtime, this is not a great assault rifle to be completely honest, but we obviously broke down the stats for it anyway, so let's get on into some damage and TTK values. So we did put a poll up on the channel just to make sure we get in the comparisons that you actually wanted to see. So most people wanted to see this weapon compared to the FARA, the Cold War AK, and the XM4, which beat the C58 just slightly, and then the AM2 was a little bit behind that. So on screen just now, you will see all the weapons that you voted for. So the more popular rifles right here, we did our full TTK comparison on all of these guns right here. Off to the right, you probably see just behind my camera right here, we have got some of the not so popular weapons just behind here. So we will still do a chest shot TTK comparison on those as well. But like I said, we've got the full comparison here. We've got the Grav, the Cold War AK, XM4, and FARA. Now, if you look at the TTK values for the Grav, now the damage values are right here. The rate of fire is 763 rounds per minute. And if you look at just the chest shot TTK only, you can actually see that it actually has one of the faster TTKs. At close range is actually the fastest, or the second fastest, right after the Cold War AK-47. And then at long range, it's very similar to the Cold War AK as well. Now the FARA does beat it out at longer ranges, but that's for the chest shots only. Now if you look at the mixed shot locations for 1.4 KD, 0.88 KD, you can see that you do get really good TTK values at close range, and the only gun that beats it is the XM4, but the XM4 is an amazing sniper support weapon, and the only gun that beats it at long range as well with the mixed shot locations is the XM4. So as you can see, the XM4 is performing extremely well when you're landing in mixed shot locations. So that's going to be like one headshot, one upper chest shot, maybe one stomach shot, and the rest are all going to be extremities. We're mainly focusing on long range rifles here, so if we're just looking at the long range TTKs for all these weapons, we can see that the XM4 is the best, then the Grav, then the Cold War AK, and then the FARA. And that is disregarding any skill level you're at right now, because you'll still get a pretty consistent TTK regardless, even if you miss a headshot, for example. So like I said, these are quite consistent guns. So now quickly comparing it to some other weapons, we've got the stoner, the EM2, the C58. These weren't really that popular, so we didn't do our mixed shot location TTK test on these guns. So what we do have here is the stoner. Like I said, the chest shot TTK is right here, EM2 and C58. Now the C58 has the slowest TTK at long range out of all of these weapons, and it also got a recoil nerf as well. Now that's talking about the chest shot only TTK, of course. Now if we compare it to the Grav does beat out the C58. The Grav is actually going to be slower than the EM2 at long range, and is actually going to be a slower TTK at long range to the stoner as well. I do imagine if you get some mixed shot locations on the stoner, you will get a slightly quicker TTK to the ones that we've got on screen just now, because you will be landing some headshots. And the same goes for the EM2 as well as C58 as well, but you need to be making sure that you land at least one headshot to get that faster TTK. But like I said, comparing all these weapons now, what we can see is that the grav does kill relatively quick. Even with just a 50 round mag, everyone knows that it's got a second conversion for 30 rounds and does slightly more damage, but it's not really viable in any way, especially inside Warzone, because you do need those larger mags. 30 rounds is just nowhere near enough. So the next thing I want to take a look at for these weapons right here is the handling stats. And again, I've compared it to the main rifles right here, which are the most popular ones, like I said. So we've got the Grav, Cold War AK, XM4, FARA. Now, as you can see, in terms of the meta mag size, the XM4 and FARA have the biggest mags, but they also have kind of like the faster rate of fires as well. Then we've got the reload time for all of the weapons right here with the meta mags, if you want to call it that. The Cold War AK comes out at the faster reload, then the XM4, then the FARA, then the Grav. So the Grav has the slowest reload time. Bullet velocity, the Grav is slightly better than the rest of the rifles. It does say that like the bullet velocity is insane on the Grav. That's kind of one of the main things about this weapon, but it's not that much better than the rest of the guns that it warrants you choosing the Grav over another weapon that has like a better TTK, for example. So it's not really going to help you in any way, shape or form. It's very similar across the board for all of these weapons. Over 1200 is really good bullet velocity. ADS time for all of these weapons are right here. The XM4 and the Grav are 400 milliseconds. The FARA is extremely slow, and the Cold War AK actually has the fastest ADS time with the meta builds. Then if you're using that 30 round mag, the one that does the higher damage, the ADS time is a little bit quicker, and then the reload time is actually a little bit quicker as well, but no one's really going to be using these mags right here anyway. So what we're going to do now is test the recoil at 30 meters. Now just keep in mind we are using the Ranger barrel for all of these weapons to run this test, and the reason for that is because we haven't actually unlocked the Task Force barrel on this gun just yet, but it won't make too much of a difference to this recoil pattern anyway. It will make it a little bit better, but not massively. So first we have the new Grav assault rifle. So we'll fire a shot and then we'll try and control the recoil after that. So let's see what this looks like. So that is ridiculous recoil, honestly. That's a ridiculous vertical recoil. Now, as you can see, it's mainly as vertical. There's a lot of spacing between the shots, but let's try and control it if we can. So it's not insanely hard to control. The first couple of shots are pretty intense, and you can feel the recoil being pretty quick. But after that, then it does kind of slow down a little bit, becomes a little bit easier to control. I was able to keep it kind of right in this section of the wall. But the other gun that did get changed a little bit was the EM2 as well, so we'll compare it to that. So again, the EM2 has a lot of vertical recoil from the looks of things. It does go way off the screen, and there's not quite as much spacing as this one right here, which is the Grav, but there is still quite a bit of bullet spacing on this gun, so let's try and control this one too. As you can see, there's a lot of side-to-side kind of bouncing around going on with this gun, even though most of the recoil is vertical, so it's kind of still hard to control this weapon and keep it steady. But again, I was able to kind of cluster it in this general area, similar to this one. I would definitely say that the Grav is worse than the EM2 in terms of recoil, and considering it's worse in terms of TTK as well, it's probably not the best thing, especially at long range. But let's take a look at some of the other weapons as well. So next up we have the XM4 and the FARA as well. So again, we'll do the exact same recoil test. Hopefully these bullet impacts don't disappear. So for the XM4, we'll see what that looks like. It will go off the screen again, but as you can see, majority of the bullets were actually on the wall. We'll try and control this as well. Now, I did mess up a correction a little bit there, but that was really easy to control, to be completely honest. And considering this has one of the best TTKs, especially if you mix in a couple of shots, this is probably going to be the new meta weapon, to be completely honest with you. Then we've got the FARA as well, so let's quickly take a look at that. I feel like they've changed the recoil on the FARA again, to be completely honest, to make it a bit easier to control. But when you wait and see, let's try and control this recoil. Also very easy to control as well, so you can just tell that the FARA and the XM4 are kind of the easy to control weapons. It was super easy to get these kind of recoil patterns that are clustered together. You can get it way more consistently than you would with the EM2 or even the Grav assault rifle as well. This one just had a lot of jump between the first couple of shots. So like I said, these are really easy to control. So next we have the sort of in-between weapons, the weapons that do a good amount of damage and also have a fairly straightforward recoil pattern to manage. not completely ridiculous recoil like the new grav or the EM2, which I've redone the recoil pattern here for, which is this is the grav right here. But this is the Cold War AK, and we have the C58 now. So we'll do the Cold War AK first because the C58 did get changed. So let's quickly do the recoil first on that. So as you can see, for the most part, the Cold War AK is actually a pretty accurate weapon. There's not a lot of spacing between the shots. There is a little bit side to side bounce, but it does go up and to the right. So let's try and control this recoil. Now, for the most part, I'm pretty accurate with the Cold War AK because this is the weapon that I use the most personally. So I'm actually quite good at controlling the recoil with this gun. I did push it off to the left a little bit, but this is going to be a bit more biased than some of the other weapons because I'm actually used to using this gun quite a lot. But it's still a pretty accurate weapon, I'll tell you that just now. Let's take a look at the T58 and see what's changed with this weapon. So we'll fire it off straight away and see what happens first. So from the looks of things, maybe there's a bit more side-to-side bounce. I'm not exactly 100% sure what they've done with this weapon. It always went upwards and to the left like that anyway. So let's try and control the recoil and see what that looks like. Yep, that was just kind of all over the place, to be completely honest. I have no idea what happened there. Let's try it again one more time. Yeah, personally, I'm finding it a bit of a struggle to control this weapon now. Even though it does output a decent amount of damage, that recoil pattern is just ridiculous, to be completely honest. That is literally all over the place. That is probably the worst recoil pattern out of all of them, to be completely honest with you. And that's because it kind of curves up and then it has like weird movement in this kind of recoil pattern. So I think the C58 might be definitely nerfed right now at this point. I would not recommend using this gun. And last but not least, I also wanted to check out the stoner as well, just to see what they changed with this gun. So let's just see what this looks like when doing the recoil chart. So maybe they just added a bit more vertical recoil. I'm not really too sure because it always had a little bit of side-to-side bounce, but it went pretty much mainly upwards. So let's try and control the recoil in this gun. Yeah, I feel like they've added a little bit more vertical recoil to this gun, but the fact that it does only go straight vertical, and obviously we're firing like 120 rounds into this wall right here, so that is a bit of a weird recoil pattern, but the stoner is still very accurate, to be completely honest with you. Obviously we didn't fire the exact amount of rounds as we did with other weapons, so this is going to be way more rounds in the wall, and that's why it looks like it's a worse recoil pattern, but it's actually not too bad, and it's still pretty easy to control. And keep in mind we're using the Ranger barrel here, not the last barrel, which would actually give better recoil results than this, so definitely keep that in mind. The stoner is still a pretty good weapon. So now let's get into what I believe to be the 5 best long-range rifles. So first of all, if you like LMGs, the stoner is still a pretty solid option at number 5. We use the agency suppressor, the task force barrel, the axial 3x optic, the field agent grip, and the 120 round mags. This is pretty much the meta build for the stoner. It's not really changed much, but just keep in mind the overall recoil of this weapon will feel a little bit different to what you're used to, but I still think you can control the recoil of this gun. It's not insanely bad. They have nerfed it a few times, but because it's straight vertical, it should still be relatively easy to control. So the stoner is still a pretty solid option. At number 3, we have another weapon that I highly recommend, and it's definitely getting slept on right now, which is actually the BRUEN. It's got super low recoil, especially with this build right here. Obviously the movement isn't going to be quite up to scratch with some of the Cold War weapons, or any of the kind of assault rifles for that matter, because it is an LMG. But if you want something that has really low recoil and hits super hard, the BRUEN is an amazing option right now. I feel like it's one of the best guns in the game, and you're definitely sleeping on it if you've not tried it out yet. So make sure you try out this BRUEN build. So it's mono suppressor, summit barrel, tac laser, VLK 3x optic, I almost said axial arms there, and the commando foregrip. And I would highly recommend trying out the BRUEN, especially if you're a lower skill player and you want something quite easy to use. It also has a 100 round mag. At number 3, we have the FARA, and the FARA is still a solid assault rifle right now. It's got pretty low recoil, as I've just shown you. It has pretty good chest shot TTKs. If you do mix in different shot locations, you will get a slightly slower TTK compared to some of the other weapons in the game. But like I said, it's still a solid weapon overall, and you will actually be hitting your shots with this gun, which is probably one of the more important things at long range anyway. And it's got really good bullet velocity, so that's another thing to factor in. So this is kind of like the new kind of grau, more or less, but does a little bit more damage. So if you're used to using the FARA and you do like this weapon, continue to use it because it is a super solid weapon. And I don't think you should change away from it because it will be in the meta and it will be in the mix. At number 2, we have my favorite weapon, and I can't really put this at number 1 because there is a definite number 1 here. But the Cold War AK is definitely easier to manage than the other harder hitting weapons. It's got pretty good TTKs. Now, it's not the best TTKs out of all the guns in the game, but you will actually hit your shots with the Cold War AK. Like I said, with the other weapons, you're probably going to be missing all of your shots, to be completely honest, especially at those longer ranges, and that's what this video is focused solely on. So for the build for this gun, you do want to use the GRU suppressor, Spetsnaz RPK barrel, Spetsnaz grip, the 45 round mags, and the axial 3x optic, and that is the best long range AK-47 build. At number 1, we have the best long range rifle without a doubt in the game right now, and it's also the best sniper support in the game right now as well. And this is probably just the best gun to use. You could run like a double XM4 loadout and do really well with it. But this actually has really good mixed shot location TTK. The standard chest shot TTK is not the best on this weapon, but you're going to be mixing your shots in anyway because that is the whole nature of you firing at like the head or missing some shots and hitting extremities and stuff. This is a super accurate gun. The handling of this gun is some of the best in terms of reload times and all that kind of stuff, so that's also really important too. And like I said, for the build, you do want to use the agency suppressor, task force barrel, field agent foregrip, 60 round mags, and axial 3x optic. And I think there's a reason why they added this really cool blueprint into the game, because they knew this was going to be the best gun. If you enjoyed this video and you learned something new, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we're trying to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers, and click that link in the description down below and subscribe to our second channel. We do post extra content over there as well. And thank you very much for watching.